Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our webinar, My Journey from Bladder Cancer to Urostomy to Life. I'm Teresa Blondin. I'm the Manager of Volunteers and Community Programs here at Bladder Cancer Canada, and I'm so happy that you're all here to join us. I'd like to introduce my colleagues who are on the session tonight: Shasta Boshoff, our National Development Manager, Michelle Calero, our Executive Director, and Cassandra Schooley, our Communications Specialist. Thanks for being here tonight, ladies. So education is a cornerstone of Bladder Cancer Canada's mission to support patients. And we receive many questions about ostomy. So we really hope that this webinar will answer some of the questions you may have and shine a light on life after surgery. So we are honored to have Peter Rich and the Coloplast team here with us today. I would like to welcome Shelby Payton from Coloplast Care to introduce today's session and our guest speaker, Peter Rich.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our presentation with our special guest, Peter. To get started, we, of course, wanted to read our land acknowledgement. So I'm going to read that out to you now. Coloplast Canada is located on Indigenous lands, and we are gathering on land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples for thousands of years before us, through to current day. We recognize that these lands include treaties 14 and 22. Oakville, as it's currently known, is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations, the Anishinaabe Nation, the Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. These nations are the guardians of this land. We encourage you to reflect and acknowledge about the land that you are on and to understand more about reconciliation by visiting the NCTR, or the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. I also wanted to include this little disclaimer. The information shared here today is for educational purposes only and is meant to be general information. This cannot replace the medical advice you receive from your dedicated clinicians and healthcare practitioners. And for any questions that's concerning your own medical requirements, please make sure to reach out to your healthcare team. With that, today we'll be discussing a little bit more about Coloplast and who we are. As well, you'll hear a little bit from Peter Rich, who is going to share some about his experience with bladder cancer and his life since diagnosis. Peter has spoken about his journey with cancer and having an ostomy many times before and works closely with Bladder Cancer Canada. Lastly, we'll wrap up with some information about our patient support program called Coloplast Care. And of course, I'd like to save some time at the end for questions. So you are welcome to direct those questions either to myself or Peter. So please feel free, quiz Peter. Alrighty, so first things first, who is Coloplast? The story begins back in 1954, the same time that Elvis Presley was kickstarting his career and the polio vaccination efforts were well underway. Elise Sorensen, who is a nurse on the screen here, and her sister Thora, who had just had an ostomy operation and was living in isolation due to fear of leakage from her ostomy. Listening to her sister's problems, Elise conceives the idea for the world's first adhesive ostomy pouch. It was a simple solution that made a world of difference. From humble beginnings, starting with Elise Sorensen, having an idea to help her sister, to developing a global company with products sold in 139 countries, Coloplast has come a long way since its creation with a goal of making life easier for all who need us. Since the development of our first adhesive ostomy pouch, Coloplast has grown to include surgical urology and intimate implants, wound and skin, and continence to our product portfolio. Not only are we a global company, but we're market leaders within our field. We currently hold the #1 position when it comes to ostomy products around the world. Why do we do what we do? Well, the people. Those who use our products, much like these 9 users, are all real users with a personal medical condition. The questions and worries on the screen are real and are from the voices of our consumers. These are things that really impacted their time and energy when they were first diagnosed or newly out of surgery. These questions illustrate how having a personal medical condition can affect a person's life in many ways. The challenges that come with an intimate healthcare need also go beyond the medical condition itself. With our products and services, we want to make a real difference to the quality of life that the thousands of people that we deal with represent. I think that this is probably a great time to introduce Peter a little bit more, as he will be taking the mic in a moment. I am happy to be able to call Peter a friend, and he also uses Coloplast products and has been in contact with our patient support program called Coloplast Care for quite some time. Peter is one of the funniest and most dynamic people that I've had the pleasure of knowing. And in spite of most of our friendship taking place via email, you can't help but enjoy his wonderful sense of humor and realism. So with that, Peter, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you, Shelby. Thank you. And thank you to Bladder Cancer Canada for giving me the opportunity to share my story. I do that willingly because, you know, everything that was given to me during my cancer journey and my urostomy was so freely given to me. So it's, for me, it's a payback. It's paying it forward, if you will. So my journey of bladder cancer started in the summer and fall of 2017. Even though I had a history of kidney stones, of bladder infections for the longest time, I was going through a period there where I had blood in my urine. I went to my family doctor. At the first time I went to see him, he took a urine sample, and at that particular time there was no blood in my urine, so he felt that it was maybe a one-off. About a month later, it returned again, and the blood was kind of came from, he thought, from a bladder infection or a kidney stone, something like that. And this went on through the end of 2017. By the early part of 2018, it was obvious that there was something wrong. I was bleeding quite a lot. Not every time I went to the bathroom, but frequently enough to alarm me. So I went back to the doctor. This time he gave me antibiotics, and lo and behold, it cleared up. So he felt that it was definitely an infection, but it returned after the antibiotics were used up. And eventually I was taking my wife to work one day, and it had been particularly bad that morning. And at that time we were living in Aurora, and I was taking her to work very early in the morning, and I told her, and she said, you know, you better get to the hospital. So instead of going home, I went straight to the hospital up in Newmarket. They did a CT scan, and I was told then that there was a shadow on my bladder, and they were going to refer me to a urologist. And I'm not a doctor, so I don't know a lot of the medical terms, but needless to say, after about 2 or 3 weeks, a urologist took a camera, and I'll let you use your imagination on that one, took a camera, and the first thing he saw and the first thing he said was, you know, wow, there's a lot of cancer in there. And, you know, which obviously affected me. Nobody wants to hear that. So he told me that it was quite bad. It looked very invasive. So about 2 weeks after that, he went in, there was a medical procedure, and I think he scraped out what he could, and they were able to do a biopsy of the wall of my bladder, and they found out that it was in fact muscle invasive. And so with that news, now I was still living in Aurora, but he referred me to what he called a friend of his, who was Dr. Nam at Sunnybrook Hospital. And he said, if you're willing to go to Sunnybrook, I can put you in touch with the best that he knew. So that's what happened. I went down, there were CT scans, there were MRIs, and Dr. Nam, who is just a terrific guy, just a terrific surgeon. He said, you know, you have a very advanced bladder cancer. The bladder has to go, and we're going to have to do chemotherapy. We can either do it before or after. What would you prefer? And for some reason I said I'd do it before. And he gave me, even at that early time, he gave me the option of either having the ileoconduit, which is the bag, or a neobladder, because other than the cancer, I was considered fairly healthy. But he didn't make any recommendation. He said to me, you know, you seem like a fairly intelligent kind of guy. Go away, do some research. We don't have to decide for 6 months because you're going to be having 6 months of chemotherapy. So I did my research during that period. I went for chemotherapy. I went, once again, I don't know what kind of chemotherapy it was, but I know that it was every week. In 1 week, I would do 8 hours of chemotherapy. The next week, I would do 2 hours. And the week after, there was none, which gave me the opportunity to recoup, I guess. The chemotherapy was a bit of a breeze to start off with, but soon, after about 3 treatments, it was starting to wear on me. I had a lack of energy. They were giving me steroids as well while I was there to enhance my appetite. I actually didn't lose any weight while I was going through chemo. I lost most of my hair. And actually I have more today than I had before I had chemo. So I don't recommend that method to have hair growth, but anyway, that's the result of it. Anyway, after 6 months of chemotherapy, unfortunately, during that period, they did a series of CT scans. They did a PET scan, and I was told that my cancer had spread. And so now I was classified, before I was stage 3 cancer, excuse me, stage 3, and they reclassified me as stage 4.
Mm.
The additional cancer was the lymph nodes in my neck. That's where the cancer had spread. But I had just a wonderful urologist, and she was a great lady. And she said to me, you know, I'm not going to worry about, we're just going to deal with everything below the waist first, and we'll deal with the other later. And so after the 6 months of chemotherapy, I had a month off before surgery. So the surgery was actually done in December of 2018. I was, and I've only recently found this out. I found out from the hospital that Dr. Nam, as great as he was, didn't want to do the surgery, primarily because of the fact that now it had spread. I'm not saying what was the point, but because it had spread. But apparently he did change his mind. He was influenced by some people, and he did change his mind. So they went ahead with the surgery, and they removed my bladder. This is obviously all before COVID, so things weren't as locked down as they were in the hospital. Surgery, I really did not want to take any drug, let's say medication, but they told me I was going to be in a lot of pain afterwards, so they gave me an epidural to deaden me from the knees to the chest, I guess. And they maintained that freezing, if you will, for about 4 days after I was in hospital. And I was released after 8 days. And I came back home. We were then living in Toronto. And I had a nurse come to see me, I think about every third day. She came to see me. And at that time, when I left Sunnybrook, they gave me a big bag of supplies. They were not Coloplast supplies, but they gave me a big bag of supplies. And the nurse would help me change every time she came and show me how to do things. And eventually I was doing myself. I did a lot of research. My stoma is It's about 3 inches directly to the right of my belly button. It's very small. And the reason I mentioned the positioning was because when I was wearing the bag, it was just about tucked into my pant line, at my waist on my pants. And I asked the stoma nurse who was coming to see me, could I turn the bag horizontally? Because I felt that I could then have everything above the waistline. And she said, well, you can, but if you're going to do that, then you would be better off using a Coloplast product. But she couldn't give me that. I guess there was some agreement between the hospital and that supplier at the time. So I contacted Coloplast. That was really the first time I had contact, and I was put through, I assumed, to Shelby's department. It wasn't Shelby at the time. And they sent me all kinds of samples. It was amazing. Anything I wanted, I got. I'm kind of jumping ahead a bit, but I have this is a travel pack that I carry with me. It's usually in my car, just in case for emergencies. So these are the kind of things that I was supplied with. If I can just grab this without making too much noise. So this was the samples, although this is what I use now. This is the sample that I got from Coloplast. This attaches to me and this attaches to that. And my experience that I share with other people is that this is a trial and error thing that you go through to find the right product. Everybody's skin is different. Everybody's reaction is different. So it was very beneficial to me to be able to really pick up the phone and ask for any samples that I wanted. I've now been using the same products for 3 years, and it took me about 1 year to 9 months to get a routine of products that worked for me. That I have Coloplast adhesive remover, I have a cleansers, and these are amazing. These are what you put around the edges of that plate, and these really stick to you. These things really stick, and they prevent any leaks, which is the biggest fear that anybody with the urostomy has. So as I say, I tried different products, and this is what works for me, and it has been working for me. I'm very fortunate. You can, when you buy these things, you have to cut out the hole. Fortunately, because my stoma is so small, they actually have ones that are pre-cut to the size. So back to the other cancers. So I was stage 4. Once I got into the routine of having the urostomy, they sent me to another surgeon at Sunnybrook again, and he was looking at the MRIs, was looking at the CT scans, and he said, well, we're going to do these again, and we're going to see where we stand. And I said, okay. He said, well, I can take them out. You're going to need some plastic surgery afterwards, but we can take them out. And I always remember this, and I whenever I tell people, I try not to get emotional about this, but this was the way I was treated, and that's why I'm so grateful for given the opportunity to share my story, because it was just amazing the way I was treated at Sunnybrook. And I went back to see him to get the results of the MRI and where we were going to go from here. And when I got there, he was a little late. It was at one of the clinics there, and he was a little late. And he came in and he said, I'm really sorry I'm late. And I said, like, you must be really busy. Don't worry about it. And he said, no, the parking lot today is full of cars. It's difficult to park. And I said, yeah, I understand. And he said, but especially today, he said, because there's quite a few people in the parking lot that don't have cancer anymore. And I went, wow, that's great. And he said, I'm talking to you. And I said, what do you mean? He said, you don't have cancer anymore. And I go, how can that be? And I always remember, he said, what do you care? Go home and get on with the rest of your life. I found out later that the chemotherapy was so effective that it completely destroyed the cancer that was in my neck. So I go back now every 6 months. I go back to Sunnybrook for CT scans. So far, fingers crossed, I've been given clean bill of health. My oncologist is very encouraged. She's told me that she'd be very surprised if anything was to come back, but I'm in the right place if something comes back. So what's it like today? Today, I'm like anybody that's starting this journey. I was just terrified that my life, which should not, I don't climb mountains or ride horses and that kind of thing, but I didn't want to have my life impeded by the fact that I had a bag hanging off of me, and I found that the opposite was true. Absolutely, I can't do some of the things that I used to do before. I was never into weightlifting, but with the stoma, it's difficult to do that kind of thing. You could do yourself damage. But without being graphic, it's just another way to pee. It really is. It's just another way to go to the bathroom. When I'm out and about, I wear the bag horizontally. One of the things that I use, and I got mine from Amazon, is that I got a maternity band that goes over everything, so it keeps everything tight to my body. And when I'm relaxing around home, I wear the bag vertically because I don't have to wear the band around me. So I've been able to do pretty much everything that I wanted to do. We had a vacation booked prior to me even getting cancer. The vacation was already booked. We booked it a year ahead. And 2 months after my surgery, wearing a urostomy, we were able to go to Cuba. And that's 2 months after the surgery, which I felt was just absolutely amazing. So you can see in these pictures here, you can't see my urostomy, but it's there. And I was just thrilled that I was able to do that kind of thing. That was, to me, was just amazing. And I think a lot of that was just my will to push through this. And the fact that I had probably one of the best surgeons who did the work, if you will. Something that struck me so important when this started happening to me, and that was I don't know if I read this somewhere or saw it or something, but I came to the conclusion that I didn't have cancer, that my body had cancer. And I don't know if that makes sense. So I didn't have cancer, but my body did. So my approach to cancer was totally different to how my body's approach to cancer was. My body had to go through these physical things and these surgeries. My mind, my person, if you will, had to deal with it on a totally different level. And the way that I dealt with it was, to me, I reached a point of total acceptance. I have this, I don't like it, but I do have to accept it. I mean, at first when I found out, I was angry, I was in denial. I think these things are very common, but eventually I came across this saying that, my body had the cancer and I didn't, and that how I approach it for the rest of the journey would have to be different than the way my body approached it. And I think that's what helped me on. So when we had this vacation that was already booked for 2 months after my surgery, I said, we're going, we are going to do this. We're going to go. And we went and we had a great time. I was able to swim in the ocean. I did pretty much all the things. I was a little slow, I'll be honest. And as you can see in these pictures, I'd lost a fair amount of weight at that time. I'm glad to tell you that I've put it back. But there's a very few things that I can't do today that I couldn't do before. And There's no sensation of me going to the bathroom or the need to go to the bathroom. So I'm constantly kind of holding in my stomach to feel if it's time to discharge, as I call it. I sleep all the way through the night. I don't have to get up to go to the bathroom during the night. There's some benefits. I know that's kind of a strange thing to say, but there are some benefits to this. I get all my supplies for the most part from one company in Toronto, and because they have everything I need, I don't have to go to different places to buy different things. But Coloplast has been there for me, even following up, asking, especially Shelby, who I love dearly. She's such a wonderful contact at Coloplast, but she will, she would follow up and say, I sent you this. I just want to make sure everything's okay and this kind of thing. So it's been a really good, tight relationship that I've had between myself, Coloplast, and I felt that I needed to pay this forward in some way. So I decided to become a peer support volunteer at Bladder Cancer Canada. I did that, and I really enjoy that. I get people who phone in or contact Bladder Cancer. They want to talk to somebody. I get the guys, or I get the people at the end. I get the ones that are going to lose their bladder. I don't see the people that go through various treatments that are available. I just get let's say, the worst case scenario. But it's very rewarding for me to be able to talk to these people, and generally at the end of the call, I hope they get something from it, but I end up with a sense of gratitude that here I am, 4 years free of cancer. I'm alive. I have an absolutely total 180-degree psyche on my personality and my values. Before the cancer, I was just, not a workaholic, but it was high priority for me. Making money, getting the things, the toys, all that kind of stuff. And I don't live like that now. I have no need to live like that. I have everything I need. I have my health. I have a support system. I have so many friends, which were so important to me when I was going through my journey. Every single day, somebody would phone me, one of my friends. And there were days sometimes it would be 8 o'clock at night, and I think this is going to be the day that nobody's going to phone me. And then somebody would phone me. So there was never, ever a day for that whole year where somebody didn't call me and ask me how I was. And to me, that was my lifeline, because you can get pretty depressed when there's stuff going on. You can get pretty angry, and you can become like a recluse. And I was never allowed to do that. And when I mean I was never allowed, if my friends detected that I was starting to feel down, then they would show up with coffee and donuts, and we'd sit and have a laugh or something. So I don't know, Shelby. I don't know if I have anything more to add to this. Oh, I will add one thing. So one of the questions I get asked the most is when do I change my appliance? Now, don't use me as a yardstick, because for some strange reason, I have no reaction to the adhesive or anything like that. So I can actually go 7 to 10 days without any ill effect at all. And that is considered a long time, and most people don't do that. It's nothing that I've done right. It's just coincidentally, I have the right products that suit me the best, that allow me to go that long. There are people who have to change every, say, 3 days, 4 days. And at the beginning, I had to do that. And certainly when I was using some things that I don't use now, the wear time was shorter. But primarily, I'm 7 to 10 days now is my wear time. And even then, I have to struggle to remove it from my skin. So I don't have anything else left, Shelby. I really don't. That's what happened to me. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be here alive. You know, I wake up pretty much every morning now in amazement, given where I came from and where I am today. I'm just amazed that I'm alive another day. That life is good. You know, cancer is not always a death sentence, and it may kill me one day, but today it didn't. And if I keep doing what I'm doing, it probably won't tomorrow. So thank you very much, Shelby. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter. It was lovely to hear you speak. For everybody watching, this is my first time seeing Peter do public speaking. So thank you so much for sharing your story, Peter. Before we move forward, would you mind sharing maybe some goals in your life that you move forward, things you're getting interested in? What are you up to these days?
I'm semi-retired. I do own and operate my own business. I have people that work for me, and so and it's not a physical job by any means. So I'm still semi-working, if you will. I have my hobby is photography. I'm very much involved in photography, and it enables me to get outside. I do quite a bit of hiking when I'm doing photography. I can do that. And I don't notice any, I mean, I'm getting older, but I don't think there's a decrease in my physical ability just because I have a urostomy.
Yeah.
I don't think, if I don't tell people I have a urostomy, I don't think they would ever guess that I have one. So.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. And it's good that, you know, you've kind of been able to carry on. I was shocked when I heard you went on a trip 2 months after. So kudos to you, Peter. And yeah, thank you for presenting. I'll also kind of dig in a little bit. I know that Peter touched on it in his section about Coloplast Care. You know, at Coloplast, we do take our mission, vision, and values seriously. And just on the screen now, you'll see another lovely lady named Renee who uses our Coloplast Neo pouches, as well as our mission, which is making life easier for people with intimate healthcare needs. And based on this principle, we created the support program called Coloplast Care. We do truly want to make life easier for people with intimate healthcare needs. And through Coloplast Care, we can discuss tips and tricks around chronic care medical devices like ostomy pouches and accessories. And, you know, we can provide support when it comes to lifestyle questions and concerns. And we'll also provide samples, like Peter mentioned, to allow people to trial products before committing to buying full boxes, because we know that when it comes to ostomy appliances, it can be a little bit tricky to find the perfect product. But with Coloplast Care, you have the freedom to try things free of charge. When you're enrolled into Coloplast Care, you'll receive access to online tools such as our body check, which enables you to narrow down product options based on your own unique set of needs. We also have a tool called the Ostomy Check, which is a quarterly check-in to make sure that your product is continuing to support you through all that life might throw at you, whether it's going back to work, hiking, photography, whatever it might be. You'll also gain access to all of our nurse-approved articles, tailored emails to kind of meet your needs and answer some of your questions. And another perk of enrolling to Coloplast Care is that you'll receive phone support from dedicated care advisors, which, in addition to just listening, they can provide lifestyle advice, they can walk you through questions that you might be having, and to help you navigate things like funding and where to source product, and some of those questions that might not be addressed early on in your journey with an ostomy. Coloplast Care is the only manufacturer-provided patient support program with better patient outcomes supported by peer-reviewed and published data. The CARE program has been proven to reduce readmission rates to hospital by about 30% and reduce unnecessary ER visits by about 45%. So you can call us at Coloplast Care and speak with an advisor to answer any of these questions. Even if we might not know the answer, we can at least point you in the right direction. CARE is sorry, I just scrolled through everything, but Care is meant to be there to support you through everything you might have a question on. These friendly faces on the left-hand side of the screen are the dedicated advisors that we have on our team here at Coloplast Care. So if you are going through your own journey with an ostomy or you've reached out to Coloplast, these are the faces of the people in our team. We are small but mighty. You know, they're knowledgeable in our products. They understand how difficult it can be to navigate and grow accustomed to changes after a diagnosis or after having an ostomy surgery. And they might be able to help you in the right direction or just sit and listen to you. You're more than welcome to call us for anything. Just this week, we helped somebody set up their dating profile. So literally nothing is off limits. Feel free to call us if you need us. And on the right-hand side of the screen there, you will see some of the many resources available through Coloplast Care. I've named a few of these already, but another huge help are our videos and animations that are available on our website. And these are awesome. It's great to kind of see how products work or how to click this to that or how to apply this. And so I would recommend if you're early on in your journey, check out our website. We've got lots of information there. If you're interested, we're also available across all social media, and I've included our links here. But if you type in Coloplast to really any of these platforms, you'll be able to find us. Please feel free to follow us. We almost always have special things running on our platforms, like product giveaways, information about new launches, resources as they become available. You know, we'll always post on LinkedIn if we have webinars or meetings kind of like this coming up. So please feel free to follow us there. And then this is my last slide before we kind of get into the question and answer period, but I wanted to make sure that I put up our direct contact information. So if you have any questions about this journey around getting a urostomy or an ostomy in general, please feel free to contact us. I maintain this email, casupport@coloplast.com. So when you email there, for the most part, you're going to get in contact with me, and I'd love to kind of answer any questions that you might not have today or that you just want to ask to us directly. So our information is there if you need it. And with that, thank you so much, guys, for attending this. And yes, Teresa, if we want to navigate any questions that might be around, that would be awesome.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Shelby. And thank you so much, Peter. What a positive and informative story. We're so grateful that you were willing to share your story to help educate and support other people. So we will open the floor to questions. If you want to ask your question live, you can use the raise hand button, or you can type your question into the Q&A function, and then I can read it out. So feel free to ask any question you would like. I do see a first one here, and I've seen this question come through the info line a few times. So tips or tricks for traveling a long distance when you have a urostomy or an ostomy bag?
Yeah, Peter, do you want to provide some insight on that firsthand?
Yeah, sure. Well, the first barrier, if you will, that you have to negotiate is if you're flying, especially, is at the airport. They have those scanners, not the body scanners, but somehow or other, they are able to pick up the fact that you have an ostomy. You can get a card. I believe even Coloplast has them, or you can go online and get them. It's a little card that says, you know, that you have an ostomy. And so whoever's, you know, asking you if you have something, I've been asked twice, do you have something under your shirt? Which was a very polite way of saying what's going on there. And I forget what the other question was. And then they take you to a private cubicle. I gave him the card and he went, very good. They were very good about it. From a distance standpoint, the bag that I use, I think it has a 750 milliliter capacity, I believe. So it doesn't stick out like a balloon, you know, because I wear this belt, sorry, the maternity band. It spreads everything out. But I've never had a problem. I mean, on a car trip, if you're going 10 hours, you know, there's going to be washrooms on the way. If you're on a plane, what I did was now I'm diabetic as well. I mentioned that I was going through steroids. So I actually ended up with steroid induced diabetes. So I drink a lot of fluids. But on the times that I've flown, all I've done is really cut back on my intake so that there's not going to be too much flowing through, so to speak. And even if there is, I have a little thing in my passport that also says I have a urostomy, and I've been seated next or close to the washroom, or you know, so I've never found it a problem traveling personally.
Okay, great. And then another one around the urostomy bag and getting leaks. So do you have any tips on what they could do around leaks?
My suggestion is, honestly, the fit makes the difference. So like Peter was alluding to earlier, everybody's skin texture is a little bit different. All of our bodies are unique to us. Even, you know, your surgery will impact what pouch you can wear because everybody's ostomy is unique to them. So the best suggestion that I have is make sure your product is the right product. That's usually what we find, is that if you're in the wrong product, you're going to get leaks. And then less is best is typically my suggestion. Sometimes when you're getting leaks, people try to like pile on the accessories and they use more and more and more in order to get something to work. And it's counterintuitive. It's like if you're using a hot glue gun and you're using 7 sticks to glue one little thing to a piece of paper, right? It ruins the whole thing. So less is best. Make sure that your fit is correct and get in contact with your nurse, get in contact with Coloplast Care, right, in order to be able to sample some different products, and we can help counsel you through what might be the right product for you.
Okay, great. And another question then for you, Shelby. At what point would a care advisor refer a patient back to a clinician?
That's a great question. And I think on the theme of leaks, if you're somebody who's getting leaks a lot, or you just are really struggling to find a product that's working and you're finding that your skin starts degrading, because we know that that's common, especially early on, this is really when an HCP should get in contact with you, and you should get in contact with them. You know, any bleeding, any wounds, all of that, definitely for a clinician. But you know, if you're looking to navigate trying a couple of different products, your skin's in pretty good condition, we can work through some of those things with you. And we work closely with clinicians too. So if we need to do a 3-way call, we can do that. If you prefer us to speak directly with your clinician, we can do that too.
Okay, and one more for Peter. I'm in an early stage in my diagnosis, and a urostomy might be in my future. What is something I could do before my surgery to prepare?
I think to do what I did, and that was I just did an awful lot of research. There are on Facebook, there's a urostomy group. On Reddit, there's a urostomy group. There's lots of information out there. There really, because it was new to me too, and I knew nothing, so I had to get that information from other people. And there are a lot of resources out there, and of course, Bladder Cancer Canada has an awful lot of mountains of information for people. But yeah, I think just don't go into it blind, because otherwise it can become a bit of a shock. So just plan ahead if that's what's going to happen to this particular person, that they're going to lose their bladder, and just learn as much as you can so that when you come home, there's no surprises or fewer surprises. So.
Perfect.
And one more question. How did you decide between an iliac conduit and a neobladder? How did you make that big decision?
Okay, that's a great question, and it comes up a lot, especially on a lot of the social media groups that I belong to. I can only speak for being a bag man, and I just feel that for me, it was a difficult journey. This whole thing with the stage 3 cancer, stage 4 cancer, the by the time I got to the end of the year, I'd had enough. And I just wanted this behind me. I just wanted to be done, one and done. And I felt that the recovery period and the surgery was a lot less complex with just having, what I have, that I could leave the hospital and hopefully immediately get on with the rest of my life. With the neobladder, which is the internal system, which is created for you out of your intestine, there can be a lot of complications. There's a big learning curve. And I think for appearance's sake, if you're a young person in your 20s, maybe that was important to you. For me, it wasn't important, but primarily I just wanted to be done with this. And I just felt that this was the easiest way for me to transition back to my life again. So, that's it.
Okay. And one last question. Any advice from a caregiver perspective? So any tips your wife would maybe give along the process? You want to speak for her?
I usually do. No. We have a lot of duct tape and we have a basement. No, I just, no, not really. She was always there. But I don't know. I'm not the kind of person to depend on other people to do things that maybe I can do myself. I mean, that I certainly didn't want to refuse anybody's help, but I don't want to sound arrogant, but I really didn't need any. I mean, I had the nurse coming every other day, and I wasn't able to carry our luggage when we went on vacation 2 months after surgery, but no, the transition was fairly seamless. Can I just tell one joke? I just want to tell one joke. So,
yes, please.
So my surgery was in December, say of 2018. And I remember being wheeled into the operating room, and I'm laying there, and there's all these doctors or medical people standing around with the rubber gloves on. I guess they're waiting for Dr. Nam to come along. And I said, geez, guys, I was thinking, I said, Christmas is coming. I said, and most people get a Christmas stocking. I said, but I'm getting a bag. And I thought it was hilarious, but not a single person cracked. Like I still think it's funny, but I was so disappointed that it didn't have the effect that if I didn't get a Christmas stocking that year, I got a bag. So.
And just crickets. Well, thank you so much. I don't think there are any other questions in the Q&A or the chat. Anything else you would like to add before we close?
If anybody has any questions or they're navigating this themselves, and I know that this is going to be, it's recorded, so other people are going to be viewing this who didn't get to attend today and maybe ask any questions, but we really are here to answer anything. If you have a question direct to Peter, I'll make sure that you get those questions, and then I can forward on your response. But we are all about making life easier. So if there's anything that we can do to help you or give you a little bit of feedback on, what reality looks like after an ostomy pouch or after a neobladder, please feel free to contact us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, Shelby and Peter, for being here. This was a great session. If you enjoyed the session, please check out our other upcoming webinars posted on our website. I'm going to drop the link in the chat right now. Our next is the history of BCG with Dr. Morales himself, the researcher who discovered BCG as a treatment for bladder cancer. So the link to register for upcoming webinars will be in the chat right there. And also in the chat, there's a quick survey. So that will come through email as well, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on this session, any suggestions for future presentations. So we'd really appreciate if you take a few minutes to complete that survey. And if you need any accommodations to complete the survey, or if you have any additional comments or questions, you can call us at 1-866 674-8889 or email info@bladdercancercanada.org. And as Shelby mentioned, a recording of this session will be uploaded to our website in the coming weeks. So thank you again for everyone who attended, and to our presenters. We really appreciated you being here. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.